Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're stepping into a very particular kind of quiet. We're looking at what happens after the noise of war fades, and a family has to face the secrets and the silence left behind.
That's right. We're working with a fascinating set of source materials today, a sort of fictional manuscript that imagines a continuation of Virginia Woolf's late style. It asks, what does an inner life look like in, say, 1947, when all that external chaos finally settles?
And our focus is this one character, Eleanor Hewett. She goes back to her childhood home on the English coast, and the plan is just to, close the house after her father's death.
Of course, it's never that simple. Instead of just dealing with paperwork, she starts to uncover this entire family history built on, well, on watching, on this intense, very private philosophy of observation.
So the mission for us and for you listening is to really get inside that idea. How does just paying attention become a form of survival?
To do that, we're going to use three key ideas from the source material. First, this concept of the sea as honesty. Second, the idea of the privacy of consciousness, which we see in a hidden notebook. And finally, this beautiful metaphor of the seventh wave.
Okay, let's start with Eleanor arriving. It's 1947. The house is still standing, which is something, but it's been neglected. The sources say it smells of damp and age. It just perfectly captures that post-war feeling.
And the light. The description of light is incredible. It's called a pewter luminosity.
Pewter luminosity, what does that even mean?
It's that specific heavy gray light you get in England after it rains. It's not warm, it's not bright, but it's reflective. Everything stands out in sharp detail. It really sets the tone for what she's about to find.
A world without warmth, but one that rewards you if you look closely.
Exactly. And that way of looking at the world is the Hewett family legacy. It comes from Eleanor's great-grandfather, William, who built the house, and it was passed down to her father, Charles.
And it all centers on the sea.
The sea's indifference. Specifically, there's this quote from Charles's father that just nails it. He says, "The sea is the only honest thing. It doesn't pretend. It comes, it goes, it takes what it wants. We're the ones who pretend."
Wow, that's liberating, but also kind of terrifying.
It is. And for Charles, her father, it led to a whole life of what we're calling receiving attention. He didn't try to do things to the world. He just let the world wash over him, and he watched.
And Eleanor gets her first taste of this when she meets an old painter, a Mr. Crane.
Yes, who lives by the marsh, which is described as a liminal space. It's not quite land, not quite sea. And he basically reinforces this idea. He tells her that human grief is just a tiny thread in this huge, massive fabric that we can't possibly comprehend.
So the honesty of the sea forces the Hewetts to turn inward. And that's where the story really begins.
Right. Eleanor's in her father's bedroom, probably the most untouched room in the house, and she finds a drawer that's just slightly ajar.
And inside are the secrets.
Two of them. Two secrets that reveal this entire double life he was leading for decades. The first is a small leather-bound notebook.
Marked just private.
Just private. And you'd expect, a diary, confessions, secrets. But it's not that at all.
What's in it?
It's mostly observations. He starts it in 1932, and it's full of notes on the quality of light, the behavior of clouds. It's a record of his watching. It's proof that his entire life was this act of passive observation.
But that's not all that's in the drawer.
No. Tucked underneath that quiet notebook is a bundle of letters, tied with a ribbon, from a woman who only signs herself as R.
Rachel Garner. And they date from 1928 all the way to 1952. 24 years.
So your mind immediately goes to a secret affair, right?
Wow.
Something passionate and hidden.
Yeah.
But the letters, they tell a very different story.
And almost everything love, the sources call it.
Built on almost nothing. They met at an art gallery. She was a painter, and they were talking about one of her seascapes, which he'd painted using impasto.
That's the technique with really thick textured paint, right?
Right. Exactly. You can see the brushstrokes, feel the texture. And Charles bought that painting.
Hold on, that detail is fantastic. Her art is thick, physical, tangible.
While their relationship was the opposite, it was sustained almost entirely by these weekly letters and very rarely quick meeting in a public place. A gallery, a tea room.
No physical affair, no real commitment.
Yeah.
So what was it? Why did it last for 24 years?
I think it lasted because it was so intangible. It existed in a space completely separate from the demands of real life, of marriage. Rachel actually writes that this almost relationship became her everything. It was the real, true intellectual part of her life.
So the unlived life becomes the real one?
It was pure, distilled attention shared between two people.
Which brings us to Margaret, Charles's wife. She had to have noticed. She had to have sensed him turning away.
Oh, she noticed. Margaret was just as attentive as Charles, but in a completely different way. If Charles was receiving attention,
She was making attention.
yes, her world was the garden. She was out there actively cultivating it, creating something real and orderly and beautiful. She was making while he was just watching.
So she had a sense of control that he seemed to have given up.
I think so. And here's the twist. She wasn't just sensing it. The sources confirm that at some point, she found Rachel's letters.
Yeah. She found them. She found evidence of this 24-year secret emotional affair and did nothing.
She chose silence.
Yeah.
She understood that his consciousness was a private space. She let him have his secret world. Maybe she decided her garden, her real, tangible world, was enough. It's this incredible act of silent knowing.
That silence, it connects so powerfully to the other great silence in the house, the grief.
It's a jarring shift.
Mm-hmm.
Eleanor is reading through these quiet observations in the notebook, and then she gets to an entry from 1940. And the tone changes completely.
This is about her brother, Stephen.
Yes, Stephen Hewett. He was at Dunkirk. The telegram just said, missing, presumed dead, body not recovered.
And that last part is so important, isn't it? Body not recovered.
It's everything. It meant that for the next decade, Charles lived, as the source says, in the presumption. He was stuck in that awful space between missing and dead. He kept watching the sea, almost hoping it would just return his son. He even wrote, "The pain is proof that he mattered."
And this is where the manuscript gets really Woolfian with this idea of time dissolution.
Yes. As Eleanor reads this in 1947, she's picturing Stephen in a trench in 1940, in his last moments. But that image just dissolves, and suddenly she's remembering him as a little boy in 1925, watching a crab in a rock pool with her.
The trench and the rock pool exist at the same time.
Because that's how grief works. It destroys linear time. And Charles, her father, found his own way to process this. He came up with a metaphor to deal with the fact that there was no body.
Driftwood.
Exactly. He started to imagine Stephen's body not as gone, but as transformed, broken down by the elements, smoothed over, becoming part of the indifferent sea he spent his whole life watching. It's a way of letting go without losing him completely.
All of this, the secret love, the silent marriage, the profound grief, all of these quiet internal events are building. And that brings us to the core mechanism of the story's end, accumulation.
Accumulation is a principle taken from wave mechanics. The idea is that lots of small, seemingly random waves or bits of energy build up over time. Individually, they're not much, but together, they cross a threshold.
And create one massive wave.
A massive inevitable event. And that's what's happening to Eleanor as she's reading all this. All these secrets, this pain, this love, it's all accumulating inside her.
She's not just reading about it, she's experiencing it, and it's leading to a breaking point.
But not a breaking point of despair. It's a breaking point of, well, of clarity.
Which arise in the form of the seventh wave.
She's standing on the beach, and she has this realization. Her job isn't to close the house. It's to open something. To open her own life to the same kind of intense, dedicated attention. And right there, she decides she is not going back to London.
So for anyone who doesn't know the folklore, what is the seventh wave?
It's this old coastal belief that wave patterns cause a buildup of energy, and that the seventh wave in a set is always the largest and most powerful. It's the culmination of everything that came before it.
So for Eleanor, it's this moment of absolute purpose. All the little waves of discovery have built up, and this one huge wave of understanding just hits her.
It's the arrival of permission, really. Permission to live a different kind of life. And she does. She starts writing. She becomes a famous watcher herself.
Publishing 2 books, The Continuous Shore and What the House Holds.
But she doesn't repeat her father's mistake of isolation. She finds a young scholar, Thomas, who becomes her companion, her intellectual heir.
So it's the Charles and Rachel relationship, but brought out into the open.
Yes, exactly. It's no longer an almost nothing secret. It's a shared purpose. The watching continues, but it's now a legacy that's passed on, not hidden away.
And she sees it through right to the very end.
She does. She dies years later, watching the sea, and the last thing she writes in her own notebook, almost illegibly, is, "The seventh wave arrives." The house, the watching, it all persists through Thomas.
So if we boil this all down, what's the big takeaway here? It seems to be that the gaps in our lives, the things we can't quite grasp, the love that isn't fully realized, that failure can actually be the most productive, meaningful part of being human.
I think that's it. We're all, gardeners of our own inheritance. We have to tend to the things we understand, like Margaret's roses, but also learn to just sit and observe the things we can't control, like Charles at sea.
And for you listening, the lesson is that consciousness itself is an aperture. It's a window. The most valuable thing you can inherit or cultivate isn't money or property. It's the capacity to look closely.
To really pay attention.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. We know Eleanor found her father's notebook and read his secrets. A violation of privacy, maybe, but it gave her a new life. And we know Margaret, his wife, also found the letters and chose silence.
She knew so much.
Yeah.
And said nothing.
What if Margaret also kept a notebook? A private one, maybe hidden somewhere in the potting shed. What truths would she have written down about her decades spent watching her husband watch the sea? What would her making attention look like on the page?
A secret history waiting in the garden.
That's the question we'll leave you with. Until the next deep dive, go be well informed.